Thank you for coming out tonight to be. Actually, you know what? Let me take this out. Yeah, it just.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Um, yeah, it's just so odd to hear myself in the mic, but it's okay. Yeah, it's so nice to see some of familiar faces and then some probably I don't know. For those who don't know me, my name is Hanan. I am a registered psychotherapist. I apologize for being behind and falling behind, but I think it gave you a good time for you guys to get to know each other. It's good that I heard there's some new faces, so it's so lovely for couples to come together in fellowship and be together and learn from each other. I'm here to learn from you. I'm here for us to have a discussion tonight, and hopefully we will learn together. And as I'm sharing what I have for you tonight, I would love also to hear from you and hear from your experience so others can relate, so that you realize you're not on your own, you're not by yourself. I serve also in a family ministry just like this one in St. Mary's Church in Mississauga called Focus Family Meeting. So I do serve with young couples as well. So again, it just feels very familiar, even though I feel so old sometimes. But I'm not that old, I hope. Just for those also who don't know me, I have two children. I have 21-year-old. Now I'm gonna sound old. And an 18-year-old. Yeah, they're grown up, but yet you still feel sometimes they're not so grown up. Sometimes yeah, we enjoyed their company, and so far they're still at home. So as long as they're home, we're gonna keep enjoying them. I know before we know it, they'll probably be leaving soon and off on their own. But for the time being, they're home. And whenever I'm not doing therapy, I'm usually with them, with my husband Megan as well. We love traveling. Hi, Megan. Sorry to put you. I'm gonna be putting him on the spot a lot tonight, so he's used to it. So when I'm not doing psychotherapy, we love to travel and spend time together as a family. I also have my parents and my siblings here, so we do spend a lot of family time as well. And David and Marianne know my sister Nancy very well. So again, it's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And we'll dive right into it. When I was talking to David about it, it took some planning on David's part to figure out a good topic. Because I've been doing this for some time now. There's so much, of course, to cover as far as couple goes, and also maybe parenting too. Sometimes we do some topics on parenting. But David felt like it might be a great idea to start really from the basic about self-awareness, like how you become more aware of yourself as you are in a relationship, as you are with a spouse. That just because again we're in a relationship, it doesn't mean that we don't do work on our own. So definitely there needs to be done, if anything, that work needs to be done before we get married. Coming into the marriage, you come with your own set of your luggages. I always tell couple, you come with your luggages, right? And your spouse comes with his or her luggages, and then the two move in, and then before you know it, it's too crowded in the house, right? So it's not only two people, but you come with your set of families, with your upbringing, with your culture. Yes, it can become very, very crowded in the relationship. So unless you start really figuring out what kind of luggages I'm bringing into the marriage, what kind of experiences I'm bringing into the marriage, it will come up. Whether you like it or not, it will come up in your relationship for sure. So the more you become aware of what you're bringing into the relationship, it will hit you in the face. And not only your own luggages, but your spouse's set of luggages as well. So definitely individually doing the work and becoming aware of yourself will be so much help for you and for the relationship. I always say to my husband, and always we say it in the family meeting, I wish back then, we've been married for a long time, almost coming to 25 years of marriage. So I wish in the first maybe 5 years, we were told what I'm about to tell you today. We did not have that. We did not have, unfortunately, we did have, of course, the church and the parents and as much support as we can get from our family, but that sort of being aware of yourself, being aware of what you're bringing into the relationship, we did not have that awareness back then. And it took us some time to figure this part out. So hopefully with meetings like this and conversations and talks, you're saving yourself hopefully some pain and agony and also years of trying to figure it out on your own. So having each other here, having the church, having talks like this can definitely bring a lot of awareness to yourself and to your marriage. So far, any questions? Can you relate to what I'm saying? Is it true? Yeah? Yeah, you notice you have luggages, heavy ones, overweighted ones? Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah, that happens to all of us. But definitely, as I'm saying, how important what you guys are doing, and I do applaud Marianne and David for really setting this up, and for all of you to be here, that I can tell that you want to work on your relationship, and that's so important. That willingness that you want to work on your relationship. Because, yeah, sometimes, unfortunately, we can go by for years and years not wanting to, or not admitting that we need to do this sort of work, and then it comes, and then there's a build-up, or there could be some sort of resentment, or over time bad experiences. However, bad experiences are normal. Issues, conflict, struggles are so normal. And when you are here together, you find out, okay, we're not the only ones. I'm not the only one going through this. So then you have the chance to really talk it out. So what do we mean by self-awareness, or what is the vision, or what are we looking at? So really what we want to become aware of as self-awareness, again, as we're talking about the relationship and the couple, we're also talking about each individually. So as a person, you would want to become more aware of your own emotions, your own thoughts. You want to know your core beliefs. What is it, the set of beliefs, the set of luggages that I really do carry and I come into the relationship with? And coping mechanisms that impact my relationship. What have I done in the past to cope when there's a struggle, where there's a conflict? Am I the type of person, whenever there's an issue, I just don't want to talk about it, I just want to leave and maybe close off, go to my room? Some people tell me I'd like to go to sleep. Or am I the type of person who want to fix it right there and then? I want to do something about it, I don't want to sleep on it, let's talk about it right now. So somebody would, or one of the spouses, that's what they want to do. They want to deal with it right away. Where my spouse, as soon as we start to go at it, he leaves, or she just leaves, or she just goes, she takes the car and she drives off, right? And then the other person, the other spouse, is left like, okay, what's going on? Did my husband just leave right now? Is he leaving for good? Like sometimes our mind would go, like, is this it? Like, what's going on? Especially when we're first married and we're new to this, you're like, okay, what's going on? I thought we're supposed to be talking about this. We've been talking all our engagement and everything was fine, and all of a sudden, first conflict happened and now they're gone. And you're like, okay, what's going on? Do I go to Abuna now? Do I go to my parents? Like, what do we do? And it becomes a big issue before you know it. And I've seen it a lot with couples, first married, they really don't know how to handle what do I do about it. So again, we want to become aware of how do I handle conflict, but also, good idea to check with my spouse, how do they handle conflict? And then that would be a startup of a conversation. What are they feeling? What are they thinking? What is their core belief, right? So again, this is our vision. That's a startup. So what would be the mission? What do we want to do? So again, it's so important as a couple, as an individual, to have an idea. Here's my vision, here's my mission. So we said I want to become aware. How do I do that? In a safe space. Through a series of exercises, group and individual work, we will learn about ourselves, our role and responsibility in our relationship. So we can do that individually, we can do that in a group, we can do that with Abuna. We can figure this out. How do we want to do this to really, in a safe space, be able to do that? Do we want to do it with a counselor? Do we want to do this because we run workshops in our family ministry, so do we want to attend a workshop, maybe a day workshop, and talk about these things? So again, it's so important that we have a purpose, we do it intentionally, here's how we want to do it. So our goal is to be able, so what do we really want to do is to be able to manage our inner self. I want to be able, the harder part is to manage myself. Usually, I'm so good at managing somebody else, right? Oh, if he can just do that, or if she just can pick up this, I'll be fine. Everything will be okay. So it always becomes about the other person. If they can do this, I'll be okay. But really what we want to do, I want to manage myself. I want to control myself. And reach a safe space with others to interact in a peaceful and enjoyable way. So what we want to do, I want to manage me, and I want to create a safe space for both of us to come together to really work on this together. How does that sound? Okay so far? Yeah? Do you find it hard to manage yourself sometimes? Yeah, in what ways? If somebody wanna just, they can think of something, how is it usually hard?
I think in the moment, like when you're in the conflict, it's so automatic that you can just see like all the faults of the other person, and you don't realize your role in the way it goes. And it's like, even if it's like you picked up on body language or like I rolled my eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it triggered him to shut down or however.
Absolutely. Sometimes I hear in a couple session, and I have the husband and the wife, and then the husband is just trying to breathe, right, to just regulate his body, and all of a sudden she's like, "See, there you go. Every time I talk, he does this," and I'm like, "Okay, what did he just do? He just breathed, right?" And it reminds me of my boys when they used to be young, and my son would say, "Oh, he breathed on my toothbrush." And I was like, my second son said that, "Mom, he breathed on my toothbrush." I was like, okay, so what do I do now? So it's the same thing, right? We almost become two little children. Honestly, it becomes like two children. Yeah, like we really can't tolerate or stand the other person, even body language or breathing or, right? Like it becomes to that extent. So I'm glad that we're laughing about it, but in the moment, as Marianne said, it becomes so intense. So really, when we're having a hard time managing our own emotions because we become so upset that the littlest, slightest thing just sets us off. Like it could be as simple as maybe he left his socks on the ground, or she forgot, I don't know, she forgot her glass in the sink, and right as soon as I see this, I'm already ticked off. And my emotions are already, it goes from a 0 to 100 in a split second. And that's what we want to learn how to manage. When my emotion gets from a 0 to 100 in a split second. And that's what I want you to become aware of. Like, when do I do this? Why? What's the reason? What triggered me? What happens to me? What happens to my body when this happens? Right? All these things, it's so important for us to become aware of. Because that's me managing myself. That's not my spouse managing my body. That's me managing my body. And he gets to manage his. Right? Okay. Yeah.
So now that I've acknowledged it, I know what it is. Now I can struggle and strive for it not to bother me, just to talk through it, or rather than it being something that sets me off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the goal, David. That's exactly, you just summed up everything that I want to say today in this. Absolutely. Like, just become aware of what triggers me, what ticks me off, and then learn how do I manage this, and I can still express it, but in a calm way. Because when we're really in that intense moment, like it's as if either two toddlers, they're having their tantrums, or we're really shooting each other, right? It's like arrows being shot. If I'm hurt, I'm gonna hurt you back, right? You rolled your eyes at me, I'm gonna roll my eyes back or do something else, or yell or scream or whatever it is that I wanna tell you, you hurt me, right? So it really doesn't come off as you hurt me, it comes off as I'm yelling and screaming, and it can be very scary. So what is it?
Oh, we have a withdrawer in the room.
Or a withdrawal in the room? Yes. Yes. I can remember how so many times I would leave, right? Or I would just leave completely the house, or I take the car and I go somewhere and then I wouldn't pick up my phone. I did that, and I'm guilty of that, yeah, and it's not very safe. It's not safe for me. It wasn't safe for my husband. It's not safe for the whole situation, right? But yeah, when you're in that intense moment, you do things you come later on to regret. So it's very much important to become aware of this, because we would do things under the influence of our emotions, and I'll tell you why this happens, but it's very important that we learn to manage that, and to manage that intense emotions. Yes.
What about like how should I think about the reason behind that feeling? Like sometimes the reason is valid, or sometimes it's like something silly. So how do I recognize that? Where where can I, or like how to know if the reason that I have behind that feeling is valid or not?
Yeah.
Or
Excellent question. Yeah, excellent question. Most of the time, if not 99% of the time, the reason is valid. It's valid for you, right? Like, it's upsetting, right? And it's upsetting for you. So we're not challenging whether it's valid or not. What we're challenging here, and we're inviting you to reflect on and to work on, and it's a journey, it's a process that you work on, is when this happens and it's a valid reason, how I don't let that just take over. So despite the upsetness, despite the discomfort, despite, yes, when she yelled at me, or when she swore at me, or she did this or she did that, that was not okay, but how my response is my responsibility. That's the thing, right? So we're not saying what happened is okay or not okay, because definitely sometimes it's not okay. It's not for sure not okay, but other times it's not okay for you. Like for me, my threshold, I don't want the rolling of the eyes. It's not hurtful, like it's not major, it's not huge, but for me, I'm not okay with that, and it's upsetting for me. And so what I'm asking is for all of us to learn, why is it upsetting for me? Most likely it's upsetting for me because of my own luggage. Something even before marriage has happened in my experience that it's making that moment for me very upsetting. And that's what I want all of us to continuously try to figure out, because that's what's impacting the relationship, or that's what's impacting how I'm responding to my spouse. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So we will learn to befriend pain. So really what I'm asking again, just like I was answering, sorry, I didn't get your name. Fadi. So as I was answering, Fadi was saying that something will happen 100% that will upset me. But what I'm asking you is, I'm going to be in pain. And in that pain, how much can I tolerate that pain of my spouse just did something to upset me? And then eventually, with that pain, I can deal with it. I can somehow figure out how to calm down that pain so that I can continuously deal with my spouse. So what we're asking is somehow to figure out my tolerance of pain, and how can I expand my tolerance of being in that discomfort. My spouse just upset me, and then I can just ruminate over and over again why I'm so upset, and that's not going to get me anywhere good. So at one point I need to figure out, not to completely let it go, but to calm myself down knowing I have this pain, and then move forward. So it's a lot of work, it's not easy work. But what we want, we will meet on our journey doubt and challenge and discomfort. So this is the type of pain that we will all the time encounter, that when I'm in that pain, I may doubt myself, I may doubt my spouse loves me, I may be challenged, I may feel discomfort, and know that this is pain, and this is not easy to deal with. But again, pain is not a life-death, it's not like a life sentence, that it's forever. And it's not 100% what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, is 100% true, right? Like that can be definitely challenged, right? So I always say to couples, we're not always right, but we're not always wrong, right? So there is a room for us to say, you know what? I might not always be right, but I'm not always wrong either. And just allow that to kind of be played with in your mind. So really what I'm asking you to do is get on the battlefield. And you're going to feel sweat and pain. So he who sweats more in training bleeds less in battle. So really when you get into the battlefield and you really work yourself into it, eventually it will become less and less, like you'll be able to tolerate it, and eventually you will figure it out together. It's because we're afraid sometimes to really get into the battlefield. We would rather just be, we call it, like when we do again the couples therapy, we usually say it's like a dance. So we got to get on the dance floor. Otherwise, sometimes we prefer, no, I'd rather just be on the side, and not do this dance, right? Like we're in conflict. I'd rather not do it, this sort of in conflict dance. I'd rather just
Brush it under the rug or like so.
yes, yes. And so the idea is knowing that, again, that's why it takes courage to do this sort of work, to get onto the battlefield, to get onto the dance floor, to really figure out how can we do this dance together. So you want to ask yourself today, why am I here today? So you don't have to answer me, but just think about it. Like, why am I here today? Am I ready to do this sort of work? And again, it's not going to be just today, but it's going to be every day that you got to ask this question to yourself. In your marriage, why am I here today? Why am I in this relationship? What is the vision? What is the mission? What is the goal? What do I want to do? What do I want to get out of this? Right? So it's so important to be intentional, to be on purpose in your marriage, that we do things intentionally. Any questions so far? Okay. So to start becoming more aware of yourself, this is so important. Probably some of you will be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But just so you'd be, again, we're doing this sort of work to be aware of yourself. So something to be aware of yourself, that we all have needs. And this is that sort of pyramid of needs that we all have as human beings. Any person you would encounter, those are the needs that this person will have. And as you see it, it's like a pyramid. So it's basically you start at the bottom up, and you need to, as a human being, to have those needs met. And as you get those needs met, you may be able then, well, most likely you will be able to move on to the next one. And if you're not meeting that need, most likely you will be struggling in that need, and you may struggle not knowing how to move up in the pyramid. So first, you need your physiological needs to be met, right? Food, shelter, water, air. So that's so important for that to be met, as human beings. And then safety comes next, to feel safe in your environment, to feel safe, physically safe. Then once those two needs are met, and usually our parents would meet those needs as we are, as we come into the world, and then once that is there, then you start to move on to the pyramid, the hierarchy of now I need love and belonging. And this is, again, that's so vital and so important for the growth and for the development of a human being, is to have those needs, again, being met. And usually we would go to others, especially when we're babies, to go to other people to have those needs met. We can't meet those needs on our own. Like, God created us in that sort of design that we need other people to have those needs met. So a baby coming into the world will cry because hungry, wants to be held, wants to eat, wants to sleep. So the baby will start screaming and crying so that need could be met. So usually that's a chaos of emotions. Baby doesn't know how to regulate himself or herself. So what they would do, they would cry and cry and cry. Mom and dad, they're intuitive. So as soon as the baby cries, what do? Carry the baby, right? Pad maybe on the baby's back. Figure out what's the need is. Try to meet that need for the baby. And that's usually how the baby would receive that sort of connection with a mom and a dad, which is like an emotional figure or like an attachment figure for them. Does that make sense? Okay. So as we're moving up in that hierarchy of needs, so again, if the struggle, like let's say mom and dad don't meet that need of the physical need or that safety need, so then love and belonging will be lacking. We're not going to have love and belonging because we're going to continuously trying to figure out, how can I get my physical need met? How can I feel safe? And then that will impact me feeling loved, feeling like I belong to the family. And then, of course, that's going to impact my self-esteem, right? Which is the next one up, where I'm going to feel maybe I'm not wanted, I'm not accepted, I don't feel so good about myself, I don't feel like I'm good enough, I don't know my worth. And then, of course, feeling that sort of I can contribute back to the community, I can contribute back to my surrounding, that I'm actually an important person in this world and I have something to give, because I'm still continuously struggling to meet my physical and my sense of safety. So when we know in countries or places or families or even here around us, that you can see people or families who are struggling to maybe meet their needs even those physical needs, that they will struggle and continuously struggle to know their worth, and you can tell that they would psychologically and emotionally struggle to feel like they belong or that they're feeling loved. So again, this is very important again for all of us to just kind of figure out that part in ourselves, like, is this something that I struggled with? Is this something that was met for me? Is this something that was not met for me? And I know usually I get the question, well, my mom and dad did their best. They did what they can. Why do I need to go back into this? Why do I need to think of this? And usually what do you think I would say, or I would answer something like that? How would you answer something like this? I get that asked all the time. Yes, Marianne?
I don't actually agree with the answer because I get asked it too, but I think I say that we can't change the past, but we can change the impact of the past. And that's why it's relevant to go back. And while our parents could have done the best they could with what they have and their resources, sometimes that might we may have needed more, which is okay. And like every generation you build on, especially in our community, like our parents maybe were tasked with survival, and we were, coming from the country mostly, and like work situation. They were probably on the physiological needs, trying to have that met for a very long time.
Absolutely, yes.
Like they didn't have perhaps the capacity, so they were tasked with something else, and they did brilliantly. So
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for supporting the to answer that question. Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough one. Yes, I usually would say something very much along the same line. Like, as immigrants to this country, like that was that sort of struggle to figure things out. So again, that's a struggle that maybe we didn't have back home, but when we came to Canada, that was something that it took some time for them to settle in. So definitely that impacted us as children. But again, the idea is not to put a blame, or first of all, not to blame yourself for anything, or not to blame parents for anything. Is that we're just being observant of our own experiences, right? And where things were done amazing with us and they did their best, there are things for sure that merits growth. We want to keep growing in our journey, in our life. So if we say, okay, I'm great the way I am, I'm perfect the way I am, I don't need any sort of work done, great, good, I usually say amazing, right? But if somebody like myself who's really looking for always growing and always learning, just going in the past and learning from what I've been through and how I can keep improving, and I know I'll do my own set of mistakes, like even me, I know I've done my own set of things with my children, and I know at one point they may need therapy as well, which is quite normal, but that is just, we're humans, that is part of life, right? That we do things well, but other things needs work and improvement, so we keep working at it. But it's so worth it for us to go back and figure out, where can I improve, where can I do better? And that's really what our Lord Jesus Christ always asks us to do, right? To evaluate and reevaluate and just do this sort of self-reflection with yourself, right? And that's what repentance is all about, right? When you repent something that you've done and that you want to improve and do better, and you go into confession to confess about what you did wrong, and you want to learn better or do better. So again, it's that sort of self-growth all the time. Okay, so we're not casting blame on mom and dad, we're not putting blame on you, we just want to keep growing. Does that make sense? Okay, questions? I see people are starting to doze off, so I want to excite you. I don't want anybody to fall asleep here. Okay. Any questions you want to ask, or anything comes to mind? Anybody wants to share any experience without getting into too deep into anything? Do you guys have children? Maybe I should ask that question. Anybody here who have children? Yeah? Yeah? How many children do you have? 2? Okay. And how about you, David? You have 2. Okay. 1? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So even as parents, this is so important for us, right? As parents, this is so important that we get to do this sort of work, because you know what? Your spouse will bring, the luggages, I shall say. The children will bring the worst luggages, will bring the worst in you, right? Because they challenge you to the max. And the older they get, the harder it gets. So again, this sort of work that you do on yourself to become aware why my son is triggering me or why this is just so hard for me to tolerate, it's going to be very important to do that. Otherwise, you'll see your parent in you. You'll do the exact same thing mom and dad did with you, you'll do it with your child.
What happened in class, what my parents did to me, and okay, why I'm doing this. Yeah, I remember
Absolutely, absolutely. Like for me, I said, I'll never ever do this. I'll never do it. And then as soon as they started to challenge me, I became my father right away. right away. Yes.
I just wanted to add, sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes we receive some kind of treatment from a parent, and then we decide not to do it, and we succeed not to do it. So sometimes it's the opposite, like when I want it as a kid,
Yes.
we need as a parent.
Yes, absolutely. But the thing is, I find, which I 100% agree with you, but I found sometimes when I say for sure I'm not going to do this and you work hard on it, I end up overcompensating somehow, right? Like you say, I'm going to, you know, whatever it is, like I lack this or I missed this in my childhood. And you know what? I'm just going to make sure myself I'm available. Let's say your parents were absent, for instance. And then you say, you know what? I'm not going to miss anything from my children's life. I'm going to always be there. And I found that I learned that I overcompensated for this. So I did it even way too much that it became I became an enabler for a bad behavior where they're so dependent on that mom has got to do everything or mom has got to be here all the time or right. So I find that I needed also to learn to, even when I wanted to do good, that too I can back off a little bit or try to balance it out, because I got burnt out and I tired me out every time that I'm trying to say I'm going to make sure I'm going to be there, right? So yeah, I find it's interesting that dynamic of you saying I don't want to do what my parents did to me, but at the same time I don't want to tip over to the other extreme either. Yeah, but thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Any other stories you want to share, or David, anything with the kids?
Well, the kids definitely take a lot of the time. Like,
Yes.
yeah, so I think it's like a struggle, like on a daily basis. to,
Yes.
Like, find the space for conversation.
Yes.
So
Yes.
with kids, I think that's
It's a whole different dynamic, absolutely. So that's why the self-awareness is so important, because as I said, when you become a parent, you start to then figure out what kind of a parent I am, how I want to parent my children, and yes, what kind of person it's bringing out in me, right? Because sometimes, yes, you find yourself again doing something that's not me, or saying something that's not what I wanted to say, that's not what I wanted to do, but in the heat of the moment, something else came out, for sure. Yes. So definitely we do see that when we are not in that sort of hierarchy that I talked about, that it can cause us, and that's why we learn that there are issues, that when our relationship is not working out, or we're experiencing anger issues or addiction or depression, or all these sort of set of struggles we find that people do seek therapy for, it definitely we find that it is because of those experiences that I've talked about, that either something in their upbringing or their experience, and they may not be aware of it. And the more we don't do this sort of awareness, the more we experience those issues. So again, if this is something that I'm struggling with, if I find myself like I'm mindlessly on my phone, or I'm always out and I can't be at home with my spouse because I just want to be out with my friends all the time, because that's what I did when I was at home. I couldn't tolerate being at home with my parents, so I was always out, and I'm doing the same with my spouse. That says something, right? So again, we figure out that we have issues when we notice something is not right, something is not setting right. And that's again when we need to go back to that self-awareness and know that, you know what, I'm struggling with this. Can I actually, and it takes courage, by the way. That's why this sort of work is very hard, when I actually can stand, like I have like a waqfa ma nafsi, like just a stand with myself to say, you know what, I need really no longer to deny that I'm having this struggle, and actually do something about it, right? Because again, it can go for years and years. People can be struggling with gaming or porn or partying or whatever it is, and they bring that into their marriage, right? They say, well, we got married, but we didn't lose our individuality. We'll continue to do the same thing we used to do at home, but then you know what? It's not working out in our marriage. So then it's so important to, again, to see, okay, I need to do something about it. So I wanted to also to explain to you that, so now we understood the emotional need that we have, we also need to understand the structure of our brain. So how our brain is formed, it's so important to realize that we have, you know, of course everybody knows we have the right side, we have the left side, that some people have one area sometimes even more dominant than the other one. But really what I wanted to help you understand, beside understanding that sort of which brain is more dominant, is really to understand the whole concept or the structure of the brain. That when we were talking a few minutes ago about us being so intense in our emotions, usually that part of the brain, what's actually activated, we call it the mammal brain. It's where our amygdala is. Okay, so at that point, the brain is not really functioning at its full capacity. We have an area of our brain that's controlling, we call it the reptile brain, that's the back of our brain, that's controlling the temperature, controlling whether I'm hungry, whether I'm tired. But then the middle brain is the part that's controlling the emotional part, the amygdala, right? It's whether I'm scared or there's a conflict or there's something threatening, it's either I'm gonna run or I'm gonna start to become aggressive, or I'm gonna freeze in place. So usually those are the go-to that people do. And that part of the brain that's supposed to be, or called the human brain, the prefrontal cortex, that's the part that controls the rational thinking, that part shuts down. So when we're in a conflict, this part of our brain is not working because it's not active. That's the part that's active, the mammal brain that wants to, again, there's a lion is about to attack me, my husband is about to be upset with me. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna either fight or I'm gonna run. And I see people laughing because that happens, right? To all of us. Or my wife is about to attack me, right? Because the wife can do that as well sometimes. I don't wanna pick only on the husbands. But yeah, and we feel threatened, whether we feel it in our body or whether we feel it like right away our body will become intense. There's a lot of physiological things that happens in the body. The body will the brain will signal to you that something is about to happen. So, and your body's starting to get ready to fight. And then you'll notice your heart rate will go, your stomach will start to growl because you're scared or nervous. At that time, sometimes people wanna go to the washroom, right? Because the body does not have time to digest the food. All it wants to get rid of, whatever is there, sends oxygen to the extremities because I'm about to run. So sometimes people hyperventilate. Some people may get a panic attack. And that happens because, again, the body's thing is feeling there's a threat. So usually, all that is a physiological reaction to a conflict. And a lot of us cannot tolerate this. So that's why when we see people leaving, because they can't tolerate this, or, as I said, they become loud and aggressive because I want to get rid of the threat. So, and I'm sure all of us can relate, right? So the emotional brain, where the amygdala is that we talked about, it does few things. It wants to self-regulate, it wants to regulate us, and it also wants to bring back the body at a sort of a homeostasis, or like a sort of a balanced way. But there is something very important that we need to realize, something called emotional intelligence. So as I mentioned to you, we have two sides to the brain. We have some people have their left brain more dominant. The other side is more, the right brain is more dominant. Some place in the brain where it's more dominant. I'm very good in language. I'm very good in speaking. Other people, they're more intuitive. They're more into art, right? And that's the right part of the brain, where the left brain is more explicit, more can be able to talk, right? So some people are gifted with that emotional intelligence, and usually that's the intuitive brain, that I can sense people's emotions, right? So some people are very good at, I'm in tune with what you're feeling, with what you're going through. That's why we call it EQ. That's different than IQ. Some people may not be that much fully aware, but definitely it's something can be worked on to be able to know or feel. It's not just knowing, but it's also that feeling of empathy, that I can feel somebody else's emotional experience. And some people can, we know that from families, And children, especially children, they're very, very intuitive with adults' emotions. They can right away sense and pick up on people's emotions. They can tell from their body language, because children, they don't have a lot of words, but they're very much in tune with their body and other people's body. So quickly they pick up on your body language, and they become very much in tune with what's going on with you. So sometimes we notice that children, as soon as their parents are upset, they become upset. And that kind of stays with us, right? If you've been in your own family, you became very much in tune with your mom's anxiety, you took that on, and that would actually, it almost like you become that, or you feel that all the time, so it becomes part of who you are. So again, that's part of the self-awareness, right? That you become aware of your own emotional experience, what you've been through, and then you may pick up on your spouse's anxiety, and as soon as they become anxious, you become anxious as well. So that's so important to realize that if my spouse is anxious and I am anxious, we're both anxious, that's not going to be very good for both of us, right? So we need to learn, okay, how do I regulate that? How do I calm down from that? How do I not pick up on that? Or if I see it and notice it and feel it, that I can learn for me how to calm myself down. Does that make sense? Okay. So emotional intelligence, we have few awareness. We're aware of emotions. We can actually express emotions with words. We can manage the emotion. And then the process will motivate you and delay achieving pleasure. So what I want to say with this, that as you start to become more and more in tune with your own emotional experience, you would learn, and part of the EQ, that not everything I want or I feel it needs to happen right now. That if I feel discomfort, I need to be okay right now. If I'm not okay, I need to avoid pain, and I need to feel some sort of pleasure, or some sort of I'm okay right now, right? With the emotional intelligence, I can actually tolerate pain a little bit longer, and I can learn how to manage myself with that. So again, as I become more and more aware of my own emotional experience, or even my husband's emotional experience, or even my children, that sometimes my children can be sad or struggle with something, and if I take that on, that's not going to be good for me or for them. But if I'm able to learn that just because they're angry or they're upset or they're sad, I don't need to pick up that and try to make it go away. Know that I can actually let them feel that, and it's okay for me to feel that with them. Okay? So that's, again, part of the EQ that I'm talking about. Have you guys heard about this EQ before? Yeah? No? First time? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, tell me what are you sensing as you're learning about this? Take it all in. Is it a lot of information? Okay, very good. Who heard about it though? The EQ, yeah? Yes. 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 Thank you for sharing, Tristan. Yes. Who else have heard of EQ? Yeah? Yes. 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 Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and again, it feels that we can do that with children, but again, when it comes to us, it's very hard. I agree. Like you can definitely, it can definitely be a teachable moment with your child, right? Where you can, and they will follow your lead. Like if you're able to tell them, yeah, they'll follow your lead very well. But again, it's your own inner child, your own self that needs that sort of training and teaching. So the same thing you would be doing with your child, you would do with yourself. You would ask yourself, what am I feeling in my body? What am I thinking? What's my emotional experience, right? What happened? What triggered all of this? What's going on, right? And then you would say to yourself, breathe, right? It's okay. Same thing, same idea, that you want to calm yourself down, right? Because, and again, learning to tolerate that negative emotional experience is so important, that we expand our window of tolerance, right? Like there's something called window of tolerance, where as soon as somebody does something, I flip, right? That means my window of tolerance is so small. But we want, and again, most likely we're like that because of maybe we've encountered so many bad things in our life that we said, okay, no more, I cannot take this anymore. But as you learn flexibility and adaptability, we call it psychological flexibility, we start to expand our window of tolerance, where if something is to happen, I can actually sit with it and think about it and talk about it and be okay with it, and it's not the end of the world, and it's fine, I can get through it, it's okay. Instead of flipping, you know, from 0 to 100, as I said, and then it goes dark after that. And then I am a different person at that point, right? Feeling okay with the pain. Yes, yes. Because it, again, pain in itself is not good, right? That painful experience, the emotional experience, it's not good, right? So nobody disagree about this, but again, can we tolerate it? Of course we can. And the more you're able to sit through it and talk about it, and again go over it yourself, and let it be for some time, eventually you'll notice you will get better and better at tolerating pain, especially emotional pain. Any questions? Yes.
So is emotional intelligence something gifted, or it's something that we learn throughout life?
Both.
Both.
Yes, yes. Some people are gifted with that sort of EQ, just like IQ, where you notice some people are gifted with the IQ. Same thing with the EQ. Some children are very much gifted with the EQ, but it's something that definitely you can. The more you practice it, the more that definitely it can be acquired. Yes, just like EQ, right? But with the they're with more research, they're learning that people who are high on the EQ, they're more successful in whatever work that you do, right? So people who are high in IQ, definitely they're very intelligent people, but if they lack the EQ, they would lack some of their skills. But if you work on the EQ, definitely you become much more at being able to adapt the situation and being socially more in tune to what's going on around you. Yeah, but for sure something to be practiced. Yes. Yes.
As a follow-up question, how to work towards a better
Yes, very good question. I think this is what we're doing. The conversation right now that we're doing is to become more aware of your thoughts. So again, first of all, to slow down and to calm your body down, and then to take your time really to become more aware of your thoughts. Notice your thoughts. Notice your feelings, right? And as you notice them, you don't need to be consumed by them. So I'm starting to get more and more training into something called ACT therapy. Like this is called acceptance and commitment therapy, and it's very much teaching people how to notice your thoughts, but you don't become fused with your thoughts. You don't become you and your thoughts are one person, right? That you notice that I'm upset or this upset me, but I don't need to act based on what just happened. So I need to slow down myself and take my time to realize what just happened is not okay with me, and I'm not fine right now, but I can choose to do something different about it and not act based on what just happened, but act in a different way. So you make different choices to do differently than just to react to what just happened. So usually it takes time. I usually tell people you need to take at least few minutes to not react. You want to respond to a situation. So instead of right away react, no, you want to take your time to slow down and respond. Okay? And obviously empathy is something to be also worked on, right? Like I can sense what other people are feeling, and that takes you slowing down as well. Yes. Yes. Thank you for that question. Yes, it's a very important question. Usually the way I look at it, Tristan, is that I see the person as a body, mind, soul, and spirit. Like there's the thinking mind, there is your body, and then there is your emotions where we say the soul is, and then there's spiritual life or that spiritual longing that we have. And as long as you are working every day to feed all aspects of you as a human being, you'll become more and more in tune with yourself and more in tune with others. So, and if you lack or if you don't take care of one of those, the rest will fall apart. So usually if you become in tune with your body and you nurture your body, you nurture your mind, you nurture your spiritual life and your emotions, eventually, and the emotions, by the way you nurture by connection with other people. And as long as you work on all of them, so there's not one before the other, it's all of them, I would say, at once. But the most basic one is the body. You start first with the body, and usually the body is the first thing that just grasp an experience. Because as babies, we usually don't have a language, we don't have an intelligence, we don't have much of a spiritual life, we don't have much of yet emotions, but the first thing a baby would catch on as an experience is usually their body, right? So your body will be the first thing to give you signal something is not okay. And then you can take it from there and you move on. So I would say notice your body first, become self-aware, is notice your body first, notice your heart rate, notice your muscle tension, notice other areas in your body, and then move on from there. Does that make sense? Marianne, do you want to say something to that? That's so nice, yes. 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 Absolutely, thank you. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for doing that for yourself and for the world. Absolutely, yes. And sometimes it takes another person to help you regulate your body, right? And that's why, again, God is so good, right? He's so aware, like, of course he's God, but again, he created Adam and Eve to be together. Really, you need each other to regulate each other's body temperature and emotional reactions and so on and so forth. So definitely holding each other's hands, hugging, cuddling, just being together in each other's proximity as close as we can definitely would regulate our body, and that's exactly what we need. Just like you're a baby, as soon as when the mom is calm and she holds her baby, he takes off of that, right? Because if the baby's crying and the mom is crying, again, it doesn't work, right? They'll both keep crying, right? But if the mom is calm, and with the mom calm heart rate and her body, she would calm her baby down. Same thing with spouse, right? There was just those researchers that they did this research. It's called the Love Lab. Again, they were researching couples, and they brought couples into the Love Lab. They built an actual apartment where they had the couples be there for like overnight, or I think I don't remember, like either few hours or few nights. Probably Marianne would know this research. And they were observing them, and they had electrodes attached to their body, to their brain waves, to their heart rate, and they let them interact and have like a dinner together and just be there for a few hours together. And they would observe them and see their bodily reaction. And they noticed the couple who are connected emotionally, their heart rate was usually very steady and very normal, and their brain waves was very, very calm, right? Where our other couples who were actually maybe giving each other the silent treatment, each were sitting elsewhere in the apartment, or they were at each other all the time, their heart rate was just going all over the place, and their brain waves was all over the place, right? Another very interesting research, and then it goes to show again your bodily reaction with how you interact with your spouse. Another very fascinating research, they brought a couple into the lab, and they would do an electrical shock to the spouse. But it was very minor electrical shock. Yeah, back in the days when research was not as on another level. No, it was the wife, because she can tolerate more pain. I think it was the wife. Yeah. No, I think they were just giving them like it was just a small, like it's nothing major, just a small kind of shock. And of course there was a consent, and
used to husband.
Yeah. I think, yeah, the purpose of the research, and again, I'm just explaining it like roughly. I'm sure there's a lot that went in it, but the point is that it was just like a small, again, just electrical shock to the knee, I think, or the leg, and then they would have her husband sit next to her, holding her hand. They had the researcher hold her hand, and then they had her by herself. And again, they would measure her pain tolerance and the brain waves and just see how she was doing. And then they again asked her, did a debrief with her just to find out how much she was able to tolerate the pain, the intensity of the pain. So she said the most that she felt the pain was when she was by herself. The least when she felt the pain was obviously when she was with her husband holding her hand. And then with the researcher there too, she felt less pain, even though the electrical shock was still the same. And all 3 times it was exactly the same. But she was able to tolerate it the most when she had her husband with her versus when she was by herself. So that's, again, that goes to show that having connection and that bodily connection, how much it's so important. That's why husbands, be with your wives in the labor room, because it's so important to hold her as she's going through that pain. But yeah, it goes to show again that how important it is, that sort of close connection with your spouse. So when we are in a conflict and when we're not in a good terms, we're not really feeling good with each other, right? We're usually struggling on our own, and it makes it that much more painful, not only mentally and emotionally, but also physically. Okay. There's a thing I think I read somewhere too that says that people who don't get married or their spouse passes away, that sort of loneliness can actually take years from people's lives. Right? So again, people who never be in a relationship or their spouse unfortunately no longer with them, can definitely suffer from loneliness, and it can definitely impact people's mental health. I saw a question, or you have a question? No? Okay, anybody question? No, we're good? Okay. I think I can go on and talk more and more, but I think I want to stop here. Unless, David, what do you think? Should we go on or should we stop here? What time is it? 9. Okay, you know what? Let me stop here. There's always more to say about this. But really what I wanted to focus on is just, again, how we become it's how important it is to become aware of yourself, of your body, of your thoughts, and how important it is as we are, again, focusing on ourselves and becoming more and more aware of ourselves in the relationship, is to keep working on our EQ, but also to keep working on our body, to regulate our body, to hug it out if we need to, because definitely that would be very helpful to deal with whatever conflict we encounter together. And I always say that both of us are against the problem. We're not against each other. It's actually we're on the same team against whatever else we're facing. Okay? I think I'll stop here. Anybody have any questions? Yes. Thank you.
How about working on the husband or the wife? Like, an example of either spouse and working on my EQ, trying my best to learn to embrace my feelings, my pain, and so on. But the other spouse, not. So how to deal with an ongoing conflict, an ongoing inner issues, an ongoing withdrawal. So I'm doing my best, but this is the question: how
Yes.
about the other spouse?
Yes, very good question, and I get that asked a lot of the times. Absolutely, and even I get that when one of the spouses would come into therapy, and the other one is not wanting, like it's not there or doesn't want to come. I would always. That's why it was so important to have this talk. That sort of self-awareness, right? That I need first to become more and more aware of myself, and as I'm starting to do those changes, it's almost like a ripple effect. I always say it's like a domino effect. Once you push one place on the domino, it has this sort of ripple effect. So usually I say if we do nothing, it doesn't stay the same. It gets worse. Anything that you do, it's almost like you throw a pebble into the water, it does this movement, right? So really, as you be the change that you want to see in your relationship, eventually, hopefully, we pray about it, but hopefully, and it does happen, that the spouse will come along. As you do not respond to the anger, as you are managing your own anger as you walk away from it, and then you come back and try again in a different way. That's already a lot. And again, I always trust the process, trust what you're doing, keep working at it, and the more that you work at it, definitely you'll see the change, right? So it doesn't need to be the exact, like needing the two people into the therapist's office. It can start with you, and then eventually you'll notice the change in other people around you. Okay? Yeah. Yes. 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 Yes, absolutely. I see the question. I'm hearing the question because something myself needed to work on. And again, the question, what I think I heard you say, it's how do I go to my spouse with my emotions if their reaction sometimes like, I can't fix it for you, like, what can I do? And usually they may not get it or they may not understand. Yes, yes. So usually I would say to this again, that's why that self-awareness is so important, that if I can understand myself and my emotion and then work on regulating myself, that self-regulation is so important, that I can hopefully, once I start to connect with my husband or go to my husband with that I can go with less intensity. I think it's because we go with so much intensity, right? And we're very emotional being, like women are so emotional, right? And we have a lot to share and a lot going on. They get flooded. There's something called flooding, right? Where you flood them, right? And as soon as they get flooded, what are they gonna do? They're yes, yes, or they're gonna pull away, right? They're gonna completely pull away. So I think when we come with our flooding of emotions, they become stoned wall, as Marianne did, or they'll just withdraw completely and run because, of course, an avalanche is coming towards them, right? So I think as we learn self-awareness and we learn, again, I need to work on myself in the relationship. Just because we're married doesn't mean I'm allowed and I have the self-entitlement that I go to my husband all the time with all the emotions and he has to listen to me, right? I need to learn that if I'm feeling this way, let me go for a walk. Let me talk to a friend. Let me breathe in and out. And then, yes, hopefully, I can connect with my husband, but with less intense emotion. So it's not about what I'm saying, it's how I'm saying it, right? So if I run with all of this as soon as it happened, and he's gotta hear it, especially if he did something, and I need to let him know that what he did was so unacceptable, that's not a good way to go with it to him. I need to first tune it down a little bit. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You said it right, Tristan. Usually with husbands, as soon as their wives comes to them with her emotions, is like, what can I do to fix this for you? And it's most likely what you're saying is, what can I do to take this away from you? What can I do to make you feel better? What can I do to make your pain less? And that's such a noble thing of men. And yes, of course, that, like, again, God had asked of men to provide for their wives. But in that instant, I think what your wife is looking for is more to listen. I think in listening and in sitting with her to listen to her emotional experience, I think that in itself is a fix. That in itself is an experience for her to feel better and for her to work through her emotions, right? So sometimes, men can want to right away jump, but then in the jumping in and trying to resolve it, it ends up escalating more, right? It ends up not being the right remedy in that moment. So sometimes it might be a good question to ask. What is it? How is it that I can help you? Are you here for me to listen, or do you want me to give you an advice, right? And if she says no, all I want you just to listen, great. No, no, I want you to tell me what to do. Then great, now you know. So I would say be curious and ask questions. Like let first that sort of emotional storm to unravel, and then ask, okay, what is it that how is it that I can help you, or what is it that I can do that to help, right? And maybe all she needs in that moment is a hug, just like Marianne needed a hug, right? So maybe that's all, and you know what? That's it, right? And then she can figure it out. Like we're very good at also figuring it out, and we're very much attuned to what we want and what we need. So just ask questions. Yeah. And if your husband doesn't ask questions, then you tell him. All I want you to do is listen. So please express yourself, women. Say what you want, right? All I want is just for you to listen. Do you have a minute, or do you have a few minutes? And if he says, no, I don't have a minute right now, okay, right? He's not available right now. That's fine. That's okay, right? They're allowed to say no. You don't need to make him sit and say, you have to sit and listen to me, okay? Yeah, because it's not going to work, right? You're not going to, yeah, it's going to escalate, and before you know it's going to be an all-day issue.
And then you forgot what you were even fighting.
Or that why you were upset, right? Like all of a sudden you're fighting, and it wasn't even about the fight. It was something that you wanted to say, right? So again, and that's unfortunately that's what happened in marriage, is that it's something has nothing to do with the couple, and it ends up coming into the relationship. Right? Like I'm upset about, somebody at work told me something, right? And I want to say it to my husband, and then all of a sudden he's not available, and you're never available for me. Every time I have an issue, you're not there. Like you're not a good provider, blah blah blah. And then before you know, it escalates into a whole different situation where actually I'm upset about work because my coworker did something. It was never about my husband, right? But then it builds up. Yeah. Yeah. No, but again, there is my set of luggages, my set of emotion, and then there's his, right? Like again, I need to be mindful and aware, self-aware and aware of my husband, that he's also had maybe a long day, and maybe now is not the right time to talk, right? And again, we ask questions. Like it's so important, as I was telling Tristan, ask question, are you okay to talk? And if they say no, please respect that, because you're not going to get what you want if you keep pushing it. Yes.
I totally agree. But the only thing I would say, he says no, but the moment it gets important to be like, okay, this is a good time now. I would say
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Or yeah, I agree with you. Or we can both, right? Still go and ask, like, when would it be a good time, right? When is it be? And then he'll let you know when is a good time, right? It might be in the morning. It might be, in the afternoon. Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not. Yes. Yeah. It's again, if it's next year, that means there's something else going on in the relationship, right? Like if there's that much disconnection that I really can't have a moment with my husband where we're actually intimate in a conversation. Yes, there's a bigger problem here. But usually husbands and wife are very much in tune with each other. My husband will really very quickly feel I need to talk, and he will eventually make the time, right? And vice versa, that I know, okay, making the right time to be able for him to come and talk to me. And sometimes he'll ask, is this a good time? And if I'm on my phone, like today, this afternoon, he needed to put my phone away and put it in the drawer for me to really have the time to talk. And I was ready to do that, but I was having a hard time with my phone, so he put it away. And I was okay with that. So it's okay. And you make a joke out of it, you make fun of it, you make a light of it. But honestly, he needed that time, and we had a good half an hour together where we were able to talk, right? So sometimes to tolerate and accept the fact that he took the phone away from me, that's okay, right? Like and for the husband and the wife to be in tune with each other, that yeah, my husband needs me right now, or I need to give that time for him, and vice versa. And if we're not able to do that, yeah, something needs to be talked about. Yes.
Talk about relationships like that. So here's an example. How about a husband is very hurt about the mother's from his wife? For example, he's imitating or personalizing her dad or mom being, for example, too much confident, too much angry, everything, too much this or this. And the husband is so hurt about the love it's coming with, and cannot really express because it's very sensitive.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say that there is something in the daughter, like the wife daughter dynamic.
Like
Okay.
the spouse is holding a heavy luggage from the parents.
From the past.
From the parents, for
Yes.
example, imitating one figure,
Okay.
being, for example, be controlled or being angry or like
Okay.
once they are in the marriage, she or he are in the persona of the
Okay.
dad or the mom. So the
Yes.
spouse is very hurt but cannot really talk or
Okay.
pinpoint that this is a parental,
Yes. Yes. Okay. I'll get to that in 1 second. You wanted to say something to that? Yeah, yeah. I was gonna be on along the same line. Yeah, it's already, and again, I'm sorry to say that, but there's already that sort of a judgment that the spouse or my spouse is imitating her mom or her dad. So there's already that sort of, I'm judging my wife or my husband that he's right. The idea of us understanding the luggages of each other is actually to have compassion, right? That it more than to judge. You're acting like your mom or you're acting like your dad, right? When you say that, there's already that sort of a defense, right? Or like go figure it out, that you what you're doing and what's going on in your background, and then I'm kind of away from this. Whereas when we try to understand, first of all, our own, like again, it's self-work. That's why we said self-awareness, that I need to figure this out. This is more for me, not to say my spouse is more like his dad. This for me, like, am I like my own parent? But then when I see that dynamic with my husband, I want to have more empathy for that, more compassion for that, right? Whereas I don't want to judge that. So this is something for him to figure it out, and for me to be more understanding of him and why he is the way he is, because maybe he's struggling with something, right? So that's the whole idea, is to be more compassionate, more empathetic in our marriages. Yes. And I find again when we do couples therapy and we start to bring this up in the session as we create safety and the spouses are able to open up about their own childhood, the spouse, the other one would say, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was hurting that much. I didn't know that this is what's going on." So it opens your eye to something, and it almost creates that sort of compassion. Oh my goodness, I didn't know you struggle with this. That's the whole idea. Okay? Yes. You had a question? You had a question? No, you're good? Any other questions? You're good, Marianne? Yeah, Tristan? I can see what I can do. This is part of a workshop that I did with the Focus Family Ministry in St. Mary's Church. So I almost kind of took a snippet of it. There's a lot more. There are like about 98 slides because like it was a whole day workshop, and that's why I could have kept going, but that's why I stopped. But if you're interested, maybe when I run the workshop, maybe I can invite you and Maria to come, and yeah, you can be part of it. But I'll see what I can share with you. Okay, okay. But yeah, just know that this is something that we do over a whole day of self-awareness and relationships, and it's a really interesting work because we do like in a group setting where we would split the women onto one side, the men on another side, and have the husbands talk and the wives talk. And yeah, the last time we did it was very interesting dynamic, and it was really interesting. And to sit with a male figure, was a father, was a Bunab Shoy, and then the female sat with me and a few other therapists, and it was really, really interesting what comes out in group discussions. So yeah, when we do something like that, I'll definitely let Marianne and David know, so maybe can invite some of the couples here to come. Okay. That would be amazing. Yes.
A little snippet that the perfect opportunity to invite Hanan back
Or invite the couples to focus. That's what I thought.
okay.
When we do like a whole day workshop, that we can invite, your group. Yeah, and it would be a or we can do that. Yeah, yeah. We can figure something out like that. Definitely. I wouldn't mind if we do have enough couples, absolutely, yeah. Or as I said, we can do joint effort, because yeah, we last time we did that was 15 couples, and it's amazing when we have a good number of couples because the discussions are very interesting. So doing a joint effort with 2 services would be amazing. So either we can come and we can bring our therapist with us and come and be here. And then, yeah, if you have enough people. Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, David.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hanan. We love you. And thank you so much for driving her. And for solving all the tech issues. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah.
I'm like begging here to support.
It's
and
perfect.
Presentation and let you
Yeah.
carry
I
the
always
load.
get lost when he's not here, so I always have to be lost and found.
We have snacks. Thank you, Marie. We have some snacks, and I think our next meeting will be November.
Mark your calendars for now. We'd love to have this group. Yeah, we're gonna take a picture all together.
Yeah.
Right now. Let's also please mark your calendars. All the couples that are here. We'd love to begin to create a way to create safety is consistency. If you just show up once in a blue moon, it's hard to create that like safety and consistency in our group. So we'd love to see you guys more. So David, when's the next time? So we can
November
have it
29.
Put in their calendar.
And we'll send out the
November
speaker
29.
and the details as well.
You're all together? Okay.
But they can stream in. That may be a little bit difficult. But awesome. If we can pray together, yeah, just say it. Let us pray without thanksgiving, saying, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil one. Christ Jesus our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power,